Thank you very much, Susan, for that wonderful introduction. So let us, without further ado, we'll start. And thank you very much, Raji, for joining us today. Hope you will all have a wonderful time with us this evening. All right. So bridging the gap, that is the heading today. That is our topic today. And my aim here today is to what are we going to focus on today? That is everybody's question. That's your topic says that how to improve your speaking skills. That is our main topic. How to improve your language skills, English language particularly. So have you heard about this? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, and if you teach a man fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So that means then I am not going to teach you English in this lesson, in this 1.5 hour workshop today or seminar today. We are going to tell you how to do that on your own. And that is very important, more important than just spend 1.5 hours learning something. So you're learning how to do that. So let us see what is the area that we have here. So once again, no fish for today, but only how to fish today. Okay. So what are those areas? First of all, we'll just go very fast. Why English is important in the world. You all know that, but I'm going to remind you why it could be very useful for you. And then English is useful in your career development. Why is that? Is it important? And then the learning part, very important factor here, which can impact on your learning. So what do you mean by this this learning part? And we also will be focusing on developing listening, speaking skills on your own. So with reading skills and also writing skills. So let me talk to you before I start the different ways of learning English. Before I start that, let us understand a simple phenomenon. That is English important in today's world? We know the Chinese are gaining grounds when it comes to language in many fields. There's so many other languages are there. We have our mother tongues, and why English is a big thing, isn't it? So first of all, it is the international language of higher education. You can't think about higher education if you don't have English. Maybe you can do your own studies within your country. Within Sri Lanka, you can even become an engineer or a doctor. Within this country, you can. That is also not with the absence of English, but English can help you there. But if you are interested in going abroad, there is no other way than English. So that is one important thing why we need it. And English is the international language of technology. Just imagine, because of this COVID-19 situation, we were doing nothing for a month, hopefully, right? In the beginning, 2020, until March, we weren't doing a lot of things. March, April, and then when we came to May, then we just jumped into, so many people became tech savvy and they were able to use these platforms effortlessly. Why? Because one of the reasons is they were able to do these things in English. They could watch lots of videos on how to use these techniques. And then so many things happened because you had some basic knowledge to understand technology. And I don't need to say about the rest of the things, technology to young people like you. When you use a phone, when you use a computer, when you get into the internet, you need English, without which you cannot move forward. And then it is the language of business. Once again, if you want to be an entrepreneur, English can be very, very useful for you. Now, there are stories about farmers in Anuradhapura, Polonnaru area. Once, this is again an American Center initiative. Sometimes back, I was kind of involved in that. They started teaching people, farmers in those areas, how to use the internet. So for that, they needed some basic English. So when they used the internet, they were able to look at the pricing, how much they can offer for a bushel of paddy, how much can be quoted for that for a second businessman before going to the customer. And those pieces of information were able to be received using the internet. So they taught those farmers a little, and that showed a lot of differences in the way they did their business. So that is a simple example how international you can go with language in business. And it is the language of diplomacy. Okay, diplomats, if you want to get into the diplomatic world, now if you want Sri Lanka to be represented in the world arena, you should have politicians with English language. I am now reminded of people like Honorable J.R. Jayawardena and many other leaders we had in the past, even now, who are able to talk about our country in the international arena. Without English, they couldn't have done that. So one good example that I admire is Mr. Honorable Jayawardena, J.R. Jayawardena, who knew his English very well, a royalist, being a royalist. He was able to bring in a lot of credit to our country using his language. Even currently, we have some people, some politicians who can do this. So international negotiation, especially in a situation like this, we need to have this language of diplomacy, which is English. And then it is the international language of hospitality. You know, our country is very famous, was very famous for hospitality, even now. Okay, so when you compare countries like Thailand and many other countries that are, that based on hospitality, whose economy is based on hospitality, they are also I think when you compare, we have a better English command than them, but maybe some other players are there, other factors are there why we are not doing very well with hospitality. And of course, we have a backlog of 2 years now because of the COVID-19. So that's a different matter. And it is the language of travel and tourism. Why am I talking about travel and tourism separately with hospitality? This is for you. If you're somebody who wants to just travel around the world, you should have a little bit of English. In example, if you go to China, it's very difficult to see people who can speak English. And I can't expect everybody to learn China just to visit China for a tour. So English can be useful in that case, at least to manage things. Right? It is the international language of friendship. A good example is international schools in Sri Lanka, which has so many different varieties of cultures mixing up. There are people from the Western world, Australia, and also Sri Lankans. So they have a mixture of these things, these people. Their link language, the lingua franca we call, the link language is international language. If you look at universities, when you go abroad for higher studies, or so many people are interested in migration. So all these people need language, English language, once you go there, to get immediately to be friends with so many other people, to live in a positive way. And English is the international language of the world. So that means it connects the whole world. So that is why English is important. And also, it is the common language spoken by people of other languages to communicate with each other. You meet a Chinese person, what is the link language? English. Okay. Of course, we have other international language, but when it comes to the Eastern world, we were the colonies of the British, and we have this English, which connects our neighbors and so many other people around us. So in today's world, English is a key to success. Now, without English, it's very difficult to become a successful person in any field. So you should have some kind of English, some level of English to move forward in your life. It was a luxury in the past. When you look at turn of the century, when the British people were here, it was a luxury to learn English. If you knew English, you would get positions in the government, and you can show off people that you know this extra language, so that you are superior to others. But now it is no more a luxury. It has now become a necessity, an absolute necessity, a basic necessity, like water, without which we cannot live. So don't think English as just a luxury and we can just have it as a side dish on your plate. No, it has become the main meal. Without English, we cannot do anything. So therefore, we have to somehow or other learn this language to further our lives. Now, okay. In other words, English offers an opportunity for a better future, whatever age you are in. Okay, whatever. So if you're a young person, just finished your A-levels, or you're just going into the university, or if you're somebody who is already studying in a university, your next step is going to be your career, where you need your language skills. Okay, so these are the important factors why we need English. But now my next question is, if English is so important, why are we finding it difficult? Why English has become a very difficult thing for many people? If not difficulty, I'm talking about the boring element of learning English. Many people find it boring. They don't want to go to classes. Even if they would go to classes, they feel bored. And there is some kind of laziness in people. And many people are not successful. We are in school for 8 or 10 years. From grade 3, we start learning English. Until A-level, we learn. So why are we not successful? We become very successful in our mathematics, science, okay, so many other things, social studies, history. We get good scores and good grades there. But when it comes to English, many people have failures and unsuccessful. Why is that? So I'm not going to, you know the reason, but I'm going to remind you now what's wrong. Number one, I think this is based on so many people's experience. They ask, is it the teachers? Or maybe certain teachers are not very skillful in teaching. We cannot fully blame the teachers. I work with lots of teachers. There are some wonderful teachers, but maybe the syllabus is a problem here. Or sometimes textbooks is a problem. So we try to learn a language, which is a skill, using textbooks. That could be one problem. Or is it the learning theory? Are we approaching it in the right way? Are we looking at English teaching as a knowledge-based subject? Or are we looking at as something that we need to learn by skills? So the answer is a very big problem in the country. For the last 200 years, we are facing this problem. So still we haven't found the answers, but that's what we are here, to show you a path where you can do it on your own. So that is the main thing about this seminar. So we have to see the root cause, why this is happening. So then we can do it on your own. All right. Okay. Now this is maybe a conversation that we can have, a kind of interaction if people can have, but mainly I will talk to Raji and other panelists here. We will have a conversation here. How do you think we acquired Sinhala or Tamil? So I'm using the word acquire, Sinhala or Tamil. How did it happen? We didn't sit down and learn Sinhala or Tamil. I'm using Sinhala and Tamil because I think all out of these 715 people, I hope and I think that 99% of you are users of Sinhala or Tamil as mother tongue. Maybe some people from other countries could be there, but that's why I'm using Sinhala and Tamil. What is the first skill? There are 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Now, listening is the first skill that we learned. Even before you were born, even when you are inside the womb, your mother's womb, you kept on listening to your mother, your other people around, your father, your neighbors, your relatives, everybody was speaking to you and you were listening to them, okay? So that kind of got into your brain and got registered. You were acquiring that listening skill. And then what happened when you're born, when you came out of the womb, you started speaking. And you use some small words, 1 or 2 words, you said amma, tata and all that. Then slowly other words came in, words became sentences, phrases, and then sentences, and then long stretch of speech. Within 3 years, 4 years, you mastered almost mastered spoken language, in a sense that you are able to understand what your people, what your family members are speaking to you, and then you are able to respond to them without any problem. Speaking. And when you went to school, you were able to speak the language and you were able to understand everybody around you and your teacher. Then came reading. Not letters, but you started reading symbols. When you look at the fruit apple, then you know that's an apple. A banana, a kesalgedia, right? You saw water and you know water and tannir and all that. So that you started reading at home, symbols. And then when you went to school also, they started with reading. They taught you how to read. They taught you the alphabet in both languages and you started that. And after that, you developed writing. Now, my question is, can this be applied to second language? There are so many debates about this. But if we can follow this, very soon you will be able to master the language. Okay. Now, therefore, let us also look at how we learned English at school. Unfortunately, we started with writing, didn't we? First, we started writing, and then we started reading, and that's it. And teachers thought that, okay, if a child can write, then he or she should be able to read it. And then we went to, actually, we didn't go to listening and speaking. They were totally neglected when we were at school as a second language. Okay, now I think it's time to talk to Raji about it. Now, I want to ask you, Raji, I heard that you can speak at least 5 to 6 languages. How did this happen? Did you come in this way or this path or the previous path that I was talking about? So I'll go back to my earlier slide. Okay, can you elaborate on that? And it's very interesting to know of somebody who has learned, who has managed to learn 5 languages, and what is the secret? Can you tell us about this?
Yes, 6 actually. I don't think I didn't set out, I didn't have it as my life goal to learn 6 languages, but I think it sort of happened. Some languages, especially my mother tongue, that's obvious, we all learn it. And in the school, we were taught English, not fully though, exactly like you said, it went in the reverse order. It was not a great success in school, but later on I managed to learn English. Some languages I learned out of necessity, some I learned purely out of curiosity. It's just the desire to see how people communicate. I think that you should have that. I think it doesn't matter how many languages you want to learn. Even if it's just one language you are supposed to learn, you should have that curiosity in you. That helps you to learn something new. So if I'm going to talk about my language learning experience, I started out with only my mother tongue, Tamil, and I was studying in Tamil medium until I finished my primary. And then one fine day, my father asked me, "Would you like to join an English medium school?" I didn't realize the intensity of that question. I just said yes. And then that's where my English learning journey started. It didn't go smooth at first, I'm telling you. It was really rough, very, very, very rough. I practically failed in all the other subjects except Tamil the first 6 months because I couldn't cope up with it. But later on, I persisted. I continued to learn little by little every day, and then I improved. So English was part of me by the time I finished school. I learned Hindi just purely through listening. I was not living in a Hindi speaking community. I didn't have Hindi speaking friends. It was purely through listening. Like you rightly pointed out, listening is the first approach to learning a new language, and I am a living proof of that. I learned Hindi. I learned how to speak Hindi through that. And then when I came to Sri Lanka, I was exposed to Sinhala. And the funny part or the most confusing part about Sinhala is that when I met people who were speaking Sinhala, or when I entered that Sinhala speaking community, my biggest problem was I didn't hear words. All I heard was just sound like that's it. I was not able to differentiate the different sounds in Sinhala for quite some time. Again, that's where listening helped. I did not give up. I just kept on listening with blind belief that one day I'm going to hear the sounds, differentiated sounds. And that happened. That was also a very slow learning process. First, I started hearing different sounds. I knew, okay, this is a different sound, this is a different sound. Then I realized, okay, all these sounds constitute a word. And then here's the next word. And then here's the next word. That it was a really slow, memorable development of learning Sinhala.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Raji. So if you can, the bottom line is there should be a lot of listening, isn't it? When you have a lot of listening, when you're exposed to the language, and I can see somebody saying this, Pravina Maria is saying, the main reason was the environment, the language that we used was fixed within our lifestyle by birth. I agree with you. So when you have that lifestyle, I mean, that environment, now if you have an environment where your parents spoke English, and that wouldn't be a problem. But we don't have that environment. That is the problem. So we cannot create that. So, but nowadays we can create that. Now, what Raji says, that reminds me of the way I learned Sinhala. So I had the same experience. I had my friends, and before my friends, we had teledramas and things. It started somewhere in 1986, 87, when when the TV came to Sri Lanka. First it was IT and then Rupavahini. We had lots and lots of teledrama, Sinhala teledrama. So we were kind of exposed in that, just like what Pravina says. Some part of our lives, like after 6:37, because TV was so new, so we were just glued to it, and we didn't have a TV. We had to go to a neighbor's place and watch this. So we were exposed to Sinhala, and when we started listening a lot, our pronunciation also changed, and we were able to communicate with other people. So that is what we are coming to now. So how can we do that? And when you look at my days and Raji's days, we did not have that environment, not a very conducive environment for learning languages. I told you about the TV, that we had the TV, that's it. But now young people in this country, we have, not only in this country, I mean in the whole world, this environment is already there. So what we need to do is to embrace that environment, go into this environment, and then think how we can make use of this ample resources that we have to educate ourselves. Okay. So, all right. So let us go to the next slide. Now that's what I'm going to start you. The bottom line is listening. The more you listen, the faster you will be able to speak, and then other skills will take care of themselves. But the most important thing, listening and speaking. Reading and writing, I'll come back later. Okay. Now, as a Sinhala speaker, I only know these two skills. I can understand the news. I can understand whoever. I can even understand religious leaders speaking about religious things or spiritual things. Politicians were talking about today's situation. I can just do that. I can understand that. And I am also able to speak. But reading and writing, not very good. I can't read at all in Sinhala. But some people can. Now, I will ask one more last question about this from Raji. How many languages you can speak and understand? How many languages can you write in?
That's a very good question, right? I can speak all, I can listen, I can understand and speak all the languages, but with varying fluency levels, right? But I can't write all the languages. I can't read and write all of them. Hindi, I can't write. Chinese, I know the letters, but I don't practice writing. So, but I can understand to a certain level, I can speak. So yeah, reading and writing, they come lower in the order.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I think if you want, now, you know you're listening and speaking, but if circumstances require you to read and write, now I think it's time for you to do that if you require. So that is, if you don't have the listening and speaking as a base, you cannot move forward with reading and writing. Okay, that would be very artificial. Good. Now let's go to, I'm going to give you some clues. How can we do? Therefore, listening is the most important thing. We are going to give you some clues of listening, and please get ready with your questions. If you want to ask questions, you can do it on chat. You can write it on chat. My colleagues are there, Susan, Tara. They will collect those questions and ask you in time. They can interrupt me anytime they want to. So Raji is also ready to answer those questions. So get ready with your questions. Now, let us look at our next slide. Here, I'm giving you some ideas. Developing listening skills. How can you do that? Yes, the best way to do is to speak to somebody, your friend or somebody who can speak the language. You can associate with them. You can talk to them. And I had a student, that's a very interesting story. Those days, I'm talking about in the 90s, she was my student. And she says, if she wants to practice English, what she did was, at that time, she would call her mother, her grandmother, mother's mother, who lived in Trincomalee. So what they did was every day they chatted on the phone, because the grandmother could speak good English. So they were chatting online on the phone. So I asked her, don't you think that's expensive? She said, what to do, sir? I want to learn. I really like talking to her, talking to somebody in English. So I did that. So that's a very good way of doing that. So you have a friend with you. Yes, please.
Sorry for interrupting, Naren, but yes, what you are saying is right. We can, if we are lucky enough to have a grandmother who can speak in English, very, very good. But most of us aren't, right? So what I did when I started speaking English, my parents knew English, but they didn't really use it at home. It wasn't considered as a good practice to speak in English at home those days. So what I ended up doing was I spoke to myself in English. When my thoughts appear, I consciously try to talk my thoughts in English in my mind. It really, really helps me to develop my language ability. Have you ever tried that? Would you accept it as a method?
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was in grade 8, my parents put me on a train to go to Colombo, for my holidays to my uncle's place. So I was not good at all in English. Now, when I think about my students and my children who can speak very good English now, I was hopeless. So I was from Kurunegala, imagine, just the distances, right? From Kurunegala to Batiklo, I was rehearsing only one phrase. I wanted to ask somebody, how much does it cost, or what is the bus fare to go to Borel from Aradan, in case my uncle didn't come and pick me. So I was rehearsing this way, that way, this way, that way. Those days, we had this Follow Me English program on TV. So there we heard some phrases like, how much does it cost? Things like that. So I was connecting that, and I was asking myself, if this is the way, is this the way, is this the way? For about 2 hours, I was phrasing only, I was practicing only one language, one phrase, or rather a question. So that reminds me of that. So, okay, so listening. So the worst case scenario, maybe you can even talk you they say when you start dreaming in a language, that means the language has gone into your subconscious mind. When you dream in English, that means you're okay now, right? Okay. Now, this is something that I can say, watch YouTube video. There are so many ways, but YouTube videos are a very good resource. So what kind of videos are we talking about? I'm just talking to you about only 3 things. Videos related to your field. If you are an engineer, if you are in the engineering field, you can watch some videos on that. If you are somebody who is working in the hospitality industry, there are millions of videos on that. Right? If you're an economy student, then you can do that. And then videos on personal development. So I have a broad categories, 3 broad categories I have here. Videos related to your field. Next is videos on personal development, and then videos on English language development. There are plenty. So these are things that you can do without going to an English class. I'm talking to you. Okay. So these are 3 different things. Now I'm going to show you very short videos. Okay. Here is a small list of videos related to economy. Imagine that I just chose this. I was talking to some university students recently. So I had this video prepared for them. They were all university students who were in the accounts and commerce, that management faculty. So this is one thing I can show you. So let me stop here. Now, these are something in your field. Maybe I just try to select something that could be, common for everybody. Now, everybody knows about the dollar rates are going high or up, down, or Sri Lankan inflation is so high. And therefore, I'm going to share with you a video on that. So let us listen. Now, this is very interesting. I'm not going to play it for all 7 minutes. I'm going to have it for only 2 minutes. So I'll tell you what is special about this video.
The official currency of the United States and its territories, but also some other countries use it as their official currency too. In fact, the US dollar has become the world's reserve currency. So how exactly did this become so powerful? More than $1.8 trillion of US currency is now in the world. And it's believed that 2/3 of $100 bills and nearly half of $50 bills are held outside the US. In fact, the US dollar is the de facto global currency, meaning it's kept by many governments in reserves and that most people and companies trust it for international trade. Even as the coronavirus pandemic wreaked havoc across global markets, wiping out trillions of dollars worth of assets, the US dollar was unaffected by the turmoil. At one point, it soared 4% against a basket of major currencies, namely the euro, pound, yen, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, and Swedish krona. So why did we see this spike in the value of the US dollar?
The dollar is strong because the US economy and because people want to hold dollars and the safety of the US dollar.
In times of uncertainty, investors flee to what's known as safe havens, investments expected to hold their value during market turbulence. And you guessed it, the US currency is seen as such. Why? Well, it hails from the world's largest economy, the United States, which is generally...
All right, so that's a very short video. It's 7 minutes video. Imagine that you're watching at least 1 or 2 videos a day. I know everybody is interested in, watching entertainment programs. Now there are so many programs on TV about what's going on in the world. There are some jokes and, prank videos and all that. So instead of watching them, I'm not saying don't watch them. Instead of watching them, you can spend some time in developing your own language skills by watching such videos. So that is about your field. I remember, I think I need to tell you about this. Cos squared theta plus sin squared theta equals 1. My A-level teacher told me long time ago. I asked him why. He said, don't ask me why. That is the way it is. So I couldn't understand anything. But recently I was arguing with my son, who was also a math student. I asked, so he said, let me show you. And we went to the YouTube video and we just fed in the question. Cos squared theta plus sin squared equal 1. Why? And then we got a video explaining why that is. So I was really amazed. Something that I never understood for a long time came into light and I was able to understand. So that is the power of the current world. That's what we call it, a knowledge world now, right? It's knowledge is everywhere. So only thing we need to go and find it out. So that video is very interesting because it has that language was very standard. It didn't have a lot of accent. So you were able to understand that very clearly. But there are videos you need to listen to with different accents.
Can I give a small tip
yes.
here, Naresh?
Yeah.
When somebody watches a YouTube video which is with heavy accent or with some really important information, but they need not get frustrated if they don't understand the accent, there is an option in the YouTube video itself at the bottom right corner. You can look at the transcript. You can even copy paste the transcript, put it in a file, in a Word file. You can keep the Word file side by side with the video and you can watch the video while reading the text. So that can help you actually.
Thank you very much.
That's a very
interesting tool. Right. So thank you, Raji. Now here is a small list of videos on personal development. Why am I focusing on personal development? People have to, especially young people, need to have some idea of what's your life going to be. So personal development videos also can be very, those language speakers, people in that personal development field, they speak in a very attractive manner. So that also can help you to understand.
I was positive when I got older and had less hair that you could get ready quicker. Now it takes more time to arrange each one. I mean, it's a little difficult anyway. Is everybody okay? You ready to go? Say, let's go. I like this crowd. We should do this again sometime. This is fabulous. I'm telling you. You guys have worked so hard. In fact, you've worked as hard as I have, or any of the speakers. Taking notes is not an easy deal. Thinking, pondering while you're taking notes, it's hard work. But you know, a crash program for 2 or 3 days, we can tolerate that. Every weekend, you know, it'd be a little tough. Couldn't be done, but you've done such a fabulous job. I appreciate that. Okay, let's do the workshop now and setting goals, developing a good plan for the next 10 years, especially some of the things you want to accomplish. Let our dreams pull us through, our objectives sustain us, get us up early, keep us up late, drive us to do the disciplines, read the books, take the classes, study, whatever's necessary. If the dreams are strong enough and the purpose is strong enough, we will pay the price. Then after.
So that's a short thing. You can watch this. You can also watch some young people talk about life and all those interesting things. Now, not recently, about 2 years ago, I met a young person who came for an exam, an international exam, and he was performing very well. When I asked him, I don't want to reveal the names or the place where he came from. He came from a remote place in Sri Lanka. So I met him in the canteen and I asked him, son, you speak very good English. Where did you learn this? He had a very natural accent as well, slightly American. So I asked, I knew that he was not, with experience, I can tell whether they are actually just putting up an accent or is it natural? It was a natural accent. So I asked him, how did you learn this accent? Where did you get it from? He said, sir, I watch the President Obama's speeches almost every day. I just go to the YouTube, find out his speeches, and I always listen to him. So that has given me, actually, I learned all my English through that, he said. So his accent, not only accent, the words he used, the way he presented himself, everything reflected a very good speaker. So he was a good example of somebody who learned from the YouTube videos. He said, solely on YouTube videos, I did that. So that was amazing. Now, I'm also going to show you, final thing I'm going to show you is on this is another area I told you, English development videos. There are plenty of them. So in the previous one, personal development, you hit 2 birds in one stone. With one stone, you develop English and also you develop in your personal development. But when it comes to, if you want to focus on a different area, a particular area of language learning, you can go to these. So many videos are there. I would like to recommend this person called English. Okay, and she's really nice. And I am just going to share you another 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, and that's it. Now we are ready to answer your questions, which I think would be very interesting. I am really excited to talk to you, to answer your questions. So is Raja, I suppose. Right. Okay.
Deposit, and if you use this code, you'll get 10 euros off that deposit. All the rules and event details are on the Lingoda website. And of course, I'll put the link to broad categories: work, life, travel, food, and the weather. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that about 90% of all small talk conversations focus on these topics, maybe even 95. But this is great because it allows some really specific topics, right? You to prepare for conversations that you're very likely to actually experience. There's another thing that's useful to keep in mind with small talk, and that's time. With all of these topics, we can ask questions that relate to the current situation now, any experience in the past.
So now what is special about English here is...
I'll be using some different time.
I'm not paid for this. I'm not promoting this lady. I don't know her personally, but I'm just telling you, there are a series of videos, how to use idiomatic expressions, now how to use prepositions, and what is the difference between this and that. What are the differences between going to and will form? For example, I will go to Colombo tomorrow, or I am going to Colombo tomorrow, which is correct. And all the answers are there on the internet. Okay. And that is another very good way of doing this. Now, let me finish my presentation by going into some other slides just to share my thoughts on these things. Then we can wait for your questions. I think before I do that, I have enough time, another 1 or 2 minutes. I can wait for some questions. Susan, do you have anything that I can answer now? Or do you want me to just carry on?
Yes, sir. We have a few questions, Naren sir.
Please.
Yes, so the first question that keeps coming up is, Naren sir, with regards to accent. What is your take on accents, Naren sir? Are accents important? Because when people listen, inevitably they have this British and the American accent, the two most popular, I think, and they want to know which accent is best, and do we need to have an accent?
Yeah, that's a very frequently asked question. Now, Raji, you can interrupt me anytime if you want to give your thoughts on this. Accent is, you should not, as a learner, you should not have too much focus on accent. Now, if you look at Raji and I are involved in examining, and I mean many exams, which including in IELTS, International English Language Testing System. Yes, accent is given some credit, but not the full credit. More than accent, there are other things to look at. The way you use grammar, what vocabulary you use, and all that. Now, even if you go to England, right? You go to England, imagine that you go to England. You get thousands of accents, not thousands, but hundreds of accents. Now you go to Scotland, you may not understand anything what they say. It takes time for you to adapt to that kind of accent. Okay, so accent, now even if you look at Sinhala, for example, how many accents are there in Sinhala? I can see, as a Sinhala listener, I can see at least 3 or 4 accents are there. The Patharata one, the Matara language, and then you go to Kandy and the upcountry, you have a different language. Tamil people speaking Sinhala, as they have another different accent. So when it comes to English, you have so many accents within Sri Lanka, a tiny country like us. We have Jaffna accent, Batticaloa accent. When you go to Batticaloa, for example, within Batticaloa, there are areas, regional accents. We call them, different accents, okay? Now, when it comes to English also, we have different accents. I can't say one is superior to the other. Many people think the British accent is the accent that we all need to follow. I'm not American, but when you look at Americans, there are so many Americans. There are more American speakers than British speakers in the world, thanks to the cinema, the Hollywood and all that. So many people speak American accent than English accent. English in the sense UK accent. So accent is not a matter. But there is something called received pronunciation, meaning the language that you listen to through BBC or CNN. They are kind of standard language so that many people in the world can understand. So if you put a newsreader, a Scottish newsreader on BBC, nobody will be able to understand anything. But you have this received pronunciation, they use it. But I think better, unless otherwise you have serious problems, like you are pronouncing student as a student or is speaking. In that case, you need to correct yourself. Otherwise, let the environment shape you. The more you listen, the more you speak. Now, if you look at the FM radios in Sri Lanka, they are Sinhala and English and even Tamil. They have changed a lot. Why? Because they are exposed to the world, teledramas and the world of teledramas and other things. So they get that accent on their own. So Raji, what do you think about accent here?
Naren, I completely agree with what you say, but I'd also like the viewers here to rethink the way they think about English. It's not about British or American accent anymore. English is international. We have something called as international English, right? You can Google it and see international English is the type of English where everyone understands everyone, right? And also, when it comes to accents, again, reverse your thoughts, flip your thoughts, find out whether you're making mistakes in your pronunciation. Are you stressing the wrong syllable? Are you stressing the wrong word? Find out what mistakes you're making and correct them. Don't try to emulate a native speaker. That's waste of energy and time. You have to accept who you are and accept the type of language you speak But make sure that you don't make mistakes. Go in the reverse. Correct your errors and you will automatically be very good at it. Right? So think about this.
No, thank you, Raji. So that having said that, and also there's another thing that you need to, we are not completely negating accent is not at all something that you need to focus on. But when you speak to some people, the first thing that attracts them is your accent, isn't it, Raji? So the moment you speak to somebody, you attract them with your accent. I'm not talking about language assessors, examiners, or anybody. Normal people on the road, the moment you speak your language, they think that, oh, this person speaks very good English. The accent. But as Raji rightly said, you don't emulate it or kind of pretend that you just arrived from the UK or the US. So be yourself. And the more, as I told you again, listening itself, the people you move with, you work in the corporate world, you talk to other people. So slowly you get used to that kind of language. So that is what I can tell you about accent. Okay, right. So shall we go to a little bit of reading skills? This is really, really interesting because many people don't read at all nowadays. Because once again, the attraction is towards Netflix videos, and you get the TV and you get everything around you, the internet and all that. So you must have some balance. Pick up something that you are interested in and read something. Now, the English, although there are lots of, attraction towards the internet and all these Netflix videos and all that, still the world of printing, that is real surviving, isn't it? Oxford University Press and so many people are still printing books. It's not obsolete yet. I don't think it will anyway go obsolete one day. So reading is a very enjoyable thing. Start from very small things, okay? Simple storybooks, and then you carry on. I'm telling you, I'll tell you some truth about me. Until I was at the university doing my degree, English language degree, I was not a reader at all. I read very little compared to children who read now. But when I went to the university, I started reading, and then only I started realizing how interesting reading was. And then I started reading. Now I read lots of things like Dan Brown and so many other writers. Charles Dickens was my first thing. And then Somerset Maugham was there, short stories. Start with short stories before you go to novels. Sometimes when you take a novel, you can't keep it down. So you need to first it will be difficult for you. Sometimes you will feel like, oh my God, this is difficult. What can I do? I don't understand half of the word and all that. I'm going to pose a question to Raji. How do you deal with vocabulary when you read? Say you don't understand the word. What do you do? Do you go to the dictionary? Do you ask somebody? Or you just keep reading, Raji?
Okay, so what I did, I think I am quite opposite to you in that way. I have loved reading all through my life. I read from the day I remember learning, I have been reading. So like any new reader, I met a lot of new words. Me being from the older generation, I used to have this notebook. I can't even call it a notebook. Those days, our parents, they don't allow us to throw the finished year's notebook. They take the empty pages, they make it a small tiny notebook and give it to us, right? So I used to get this pocket-sized papers clipped together, and I keep them with me all the time. Whenever I read, I write down the words I don't understand. But I don't stop reading. Probably I'll stop after a chapter or after a certain number of pages when I decide to stop. But I keep on recording all the words I don't understand. Initially, the list was really long. So if I spend 1 hour reading something, the next day I will spend 2 hours or 3 hours finding out the meanings for these words. Then I keep them. The next day or the next time I go to read the same book, the number of words get reduced because they are repeated words. These words keeps repeating. Then I know when it comes 10 times, I don't even have to look at my notebook. I remember them already. Now, even now, if I meet a new word, I immediately check on Google, or I have these apps downloaded that will give me synonyms for the word. So I just have to download an app and type the word in, I get the entire meaning, associated words, the word family, and an example sentence. The same thing I did physically when I was learning as a child. I didn't just write the word and the meaning, I wrote an example sentence for it. So it helps me remember when I write my own example sentence. Will that work, Naren? Now.
Excellent information. Yeah, that's good. Nowadays, you were having a notebook, and I have been telling all my students, do that. There are students who have just loads of notebooks with them with new words. That's a very wonderful idea. And also, did you notice, nowadays, compared to your days and my days, we need to go to a dictionary to, first I go to my father and ask him, what do you mean by that? Then now ubiquitous, a new word. Okay, ubiquitous, if it's a new word for you. The word ubiquitous you heard somewhere. Then where do you go and see that? Now, in the old days, we need to go to the cupboard bookshop and open the book shelf and then take this big thing dictionary and you go there. Sometimes some dictionaries don't have that word. So you have to go to a better dictionary. So, but nowadays, I think I can see 700 people who participated. Who started participating, 700 people. All of you are using either a smartphone or a computer or a tab. So the same device can give you, just write ubiquitous somewhere in the Google, just Google for the word and you get loads of dictionaries. Not one dictionary, several dictionaries try to give you the information, and not only information with the examples, and then you just cut and paste it in a document. Now I'm talking about a digital version of your notebook. It is also possible for you to take. Keep one full page for you, your vocabulary. If you are seriously involved in preparing for an exam, or if you're a university student, or even if you're a normal language learner, that would be really useful for you. All right. So some more slides and then we can go to the questions. Right. Just a calculation I did recently. Cost of higher studies. If you are going to study somewhere in the UK, you had to spend something like 18,000 to 25,000 UK pounds. That's the money that you pay for a decent course, which is in Sri Lankan conversion, it could be 4,500,000 rupees, 45 lakhs, something like for 1 year. That's a huge amount of money. Some people are very rich, they can do that. But if you know something, if you know your English, some chances are that you can get these scholarships. Now, I get some students from university, some are lecturers, some are students. When you listen to the scholarships that they are getting, the word is scholarship, right? Everything can be free, right? Imagine you get a scholarship like this. Now, one of my students told me, if I get 7 bands, sir, in IELTS, my scholarship is this. That amount was like unimaginable amount. I asked, why are they giving so much of money for 4 years for doing masters, from lodging to food, accommodation, everything together, tuition fees. Huge amount is given. I can't even imagine. It might take 2-3 years of savings if you do that. Right. If you have English, everything can be free most of the time. The idea is scholarship, right? But unfortunately, you can't sit and wait for the scholarship to fall on your head. You need to work on your own. The requirements for most scholarships, of course, you must be very good in your own skill, right? You need to have the skills to apply. You must have that skills. If you are an engineer, you should have that. If you are an IT specialist, you should have your qualifications. After that comes good academic performances. That is your grades. And then finally, an IELTS score of minimum 6.5 or more. So many people have the first two. The stumbling block they see is English. So they do well in the other things, but suddenly this thing comes in front of you and then you have a big problem. I have to produce 6.5. Then you go everywhere asking for tuition and, try to get something by hook or crook, get this 6.5 done. And sometimes people give up also if they don't have the language. So that is our problem here. Language, if you have that language skills, scholarships are possible only if you do that. So please don't expect a scholarship served on a plate. You need to work hard. If you have any intention of higher studies, you have to start now. I don't know how old you are in this group. There are so many people here, probably guessing that you are very young people. It is the time for you to start working on this. Okay. And having said that, now it's time for us to give you answers for your lovely questions. So I'm going to stop my sharing here, and then we are open for questions. Yeah. First of all, I would ask Susan, Tara, and do we have another person here to assist us? Susan, are you there?
Naren sir. Yes, Naren sir, I'm here. Hi, sir. So Naren sir, we've got a set of questions in for us. And one thing that kept on coming in is there are participants who watch videos, but they use subtitles when they watch the video. So what is your take on that? How does that help, or do subtitles hinder in acquiring language, Naren sir?
Excellent question. Subtitles, excellent question. Subtitles, I have to say yes and no for this, right? Sometimes in the beginning, you better watch some videos without subtitles. When you don't, now imagine you watch a film with subtitles, sometimes it's cumbersome, isn't it? You're always reading that, and always your focus is on reading. So you are looking at two different things. So watching a video without subtitle is recommended, but because you are listening, you're not reading. But later on, if you have really serious problems of understanding, you may rewind and then look at the titles also. So my high recommendation is avoid as much as possible. Then it's better you can look at the titles if you really, really want it. So that is a yes and no answer for you there. There was somebody, I just saw a question here. I think I'll put it to Raji. Somebody is asking, IELTS, are IELTS exam difficult? Like, can you compare it with Cambridge exams? So can you give a short explanation about Cambridge exams and IELTS here?
Well, Cambridge exams there's a suite of exams you have. They are focused on developing your language skill. Okay, so it starts from age 5 or 6, where you learn words and colors and sounds, and then you go on, build up to being a professional. But IELTS is not about learning English. It's a proficiency exam. In that exam, you are supposed to show how good you are in handling language. Now, when an examining body, Cambridge is also part of this IELTS examining body, they are partners. When that examining body asks you to do this particular exam, they are not worried about where you studied English, how you learned. Did you watch videos? Did your teacher teach you? Did your parents teach you? Did you learn for 2 years or 10 years? They don't care. All they want from you is, okay, if we give you these challenges in English language, if we ask you to read texts that are not from your field, understand them and answer questions, can you do it? If we ask you to listen to a white man speaking, can you identify specific details and can you identify the overall gist and answer the questions? That's the focus of IELTS exam. It's not teaching. There is no syllabus. There is no book like 7 chapters you read. You study all these 7 chapters, you will pass the exam. There's nothing like that. IELTS is your language journey as a whole, as a person. What have you acquired throughout your life? You show it through the IELTS exam. You tell them, see, you ask me a question on any topic, I'll write you an essay in 40 minutes. That's the skill. That is what they are testing you when you write an IELTS exam. Naren, am I right here?
Yes, you are 100% correct there. Can I add something? That's an interesting question. Somebody's asking, I think it's Fatima asking, IELTS expires in 2 years. Do you believe that a person can forget a language in 2 years? So why are they testing once again? That's a lovely question. Because no, it's not that you forget, you may develop. Now, IELTS, as Raji said, IELTS assesses your language competency at the moment of speak. They want to know whether you are capable of doing a course in a university at the moment. So you'd go to the exam, they assess you in 4 skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then this is your score. Okay, if you are 6.5, you won't struggle. You will go to a university and you will be able to follow this course. Imagine that you don't have the right skills. So you don't have that language skills to go and follow a course. You pay your money, you find your accommodation, you go there and you get frustrated. So although IELTS looks like a hurdle, a stumbling block, actually it is a kind of, what can I say?
It's a reality check.
It's a reality and also,
and it helps you.
Yeah, it helps you not to waste your time. So the question is asked, why they expiring in 2 years? Because in 2 years, you may develop it. You can be at a higher level. So you go to UK, you go to the UK with 6.5, you work there for 2 years, you study there for 2 years. You know 8 bands or even more, 8 bands or 8 bands or more, because you had exposed to the language. So IELTS is a different story. But as Raji said, Cambridge exams, if you have Cambridge exams are qualifications. IELTS exams are entry qualifications. That means your current level of language. So those who are young, and if there are parents, my recommendation is that you start to give your child skills of Cambridge, and then they slowly climb up in the ladder and they come to the person's position. I am such a parent. My son and daughter, they have Cambridge exam, CAE. My son has the top level CPE. Now he was not asked to do IELTS because CPE is accepted by the UK qualification. So they accepted it. So that is also one investment that you can have.
There was a question, Naren, about whether if somebody does their degree in English medium, are they exempted from IELTS? I don't know.
Pardon me? No. Yeah, I understand your question. Even if you study in your English medium, you have to do your IELTS to prove. But for your first degree, certain universities accept it when you learn in English medium. But nowadays, even top universities, they ask you for IELTS. It's not an IELTS qualification. It's not mainly asked by the university, but by the embassies or high commissions. They ask you for this band scores. Right. Okay. Susan?
Naren sir, yes, we have another question, Naren sir. This is with regards to speaking. So a lot of candidates were saying that they are able to understand, but when it comes to speaking, they have this issue of being nervous. So signs such as having a high-pitched voice, loss of words, they don't know how to, they don't recall the words, and then structuring the sentences. So how do they overcome this nervousness when speaking, specifically when speaking?
All right. So I think I will ask Raji to answer that. Then I'll pitch in.
So now there are multiple reasons for somebody being nervous, right? You could be nervous because you feel not very confident, or you could be nervous because you feel that somebody else is going to laugh at you. What if you make a mistake, and what if they laugh at you, right? Now, as a person who has been in your position, I can tell you, it didn't help me. Worrying about what others will think and how others will react, it didn't really help me. There was one day when I thought, okay, so what? What if they laugh? How long are they going to laugh at me? 1 day, 3 days, 3 months? 4th month, they get bored. They realize, okay, whatever I laugh at or do or whatever they do, even if I laugh for 3 months, this person is not going to stop speaking in English, and they stop laughing, right? And that is the only way that works for me. Naren.
Thank you very much, Raju. Thank you. So yeah, that is an attitude problem, isn't it? So yeah. You give a good way. That's a fighter spirit that you give. So let them laugh. But did you know that mostly those people who are laughing, actually they are not very good in their own language. Okay, so that is, you must see that they have their own inferiority complex there. They are laughing at you because they think, oh, this person is going a little, further forward than me. So those are the people who might laugh at you. So they show their confidence levels are low. They have their own inferiority complex. They are laughing at you maybe. So you have to make a decision. Now, I think this shyness comes from our being a colony of the British Empire for a long time, 200 years and more, right? More than 200 years, I suppose. So we were there, and that attitude is still there in us. If you don't know English, you are not a person. So that's not the case. If you, unfortunately, very strangely, we don't have this with English and Sinhala and Tamil. We are not very, we don't feel very inferior when you don't know a Sinhala or English. Sorry, Sinhala or Tamil. We take it lightly. Yes,
yes, can I give a practical solution for this nervousness? Even though attitude is the first step, but practically, how do you actually do it? What I would suggest is have a question in your mind, or have a list of questions you would like to answer in some situation. Record yourself on your phone. Ask the question and answer the question. Record yourself and listen to it again. You will realize that there are certain repetitive mistakes you might be doing. You might be using fillers like a lot, or you might have starting trouble. You would realize that there are certain mistakes that can be corrected just by being aware of that you are doing it. That could help you. Listen to yourself.
Thank you. And as you said, recording your voice, that's a wonderful thing to do. You can find your own fault, and you also can gain confidence. Nowadays, we can also video yourself, right? So there are so many things, apps and things to video yourself and do that. Yes, Susan, there was another question.
Yes, Narayan, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Another question we got a bit earlier on is when we were talking about reading skills. Actually, there are two questions here. First of all, is it essential to understand each and every word?
Excellent, excellent. I was about to answer that. I forgot that. Now, when there's a research, I recently saw a research which says if you don't understand one word after 20 words, still you're a good reader. What do you mean by one word after 20 words? If you're reading 100 words, even if you don't know 5 words, still you will be able to understand the text. So first thing is to ignore difficult words and go on reading. And the second thing is we call that context guess. So when you read something, the sentences that went before that word or after that word can kind of help you to understand what the sentence. Okay, can I give you a very good example? This is not a classroom, but I can still give you. So I'm going to tell you a word. You tell me, is that word a food item or furniture or a vehicle or something, right? Last night, I had a wonderful party. I had some excellent fish rolls, bolakis, pizza, and so many other food items. So which word you didn't understand? I had excellent pizzas, bolakis, rolls. So many other food items. Rolls, I said rolls. So what is bolakis? Can you guess?
Answers are coming into the chat box now, and so food items, food.
Food items. You see, that's very simple, right? But actually, there's no word called bolakis. It's a nonsense word I invented. So I made it too easy because it's a seminar. In a class, I would put a long sentence and put this bolakis. It's slightly difficult for them to understand, but they guess it because looking at the word. But the reason why you are reading a storybook is enjoying the story, right? So you must first neglect a lot of words and go on. But if you are reading an academic text for your own exam, then you have to stop and definitely go to, you go to the dictionary and find out what that is. You have to. Now, many people complain about writing. Okay, we didn't cover writing today. Many people complain writing nowadays. Now the dictionary, my Word document, or when it comes to MacBook, my page corrects the language on its own, so I don't get to learn. But I tell them, now if you write a word, for example, environment, you write the word ENVIROUMENT. The dictionary, the page document says, or the Word document gives you a red line, right? Don't click and correct it on the spot. You try with that. You 3-4 times you write it, the right word, environment. Try it in different ways. Then finally, the last resort would be to go and check it, check the correction. You just click on that and it will correct you. Then from that, just don't go to the next sentence, you read it. Recently, I had problems with, for the word bureau and plateau. So finally, I told my student, how can I remember this plateau and bureau, words like that, environment. They are funny words, that doesn't come into my mind. I said, okay, you have some other ideas like, Plate Australia. Remember Plate Australia, Plate, Australia, AU. That is the word plateau. Okay, bureau, POA Australia. Then change the word B, P-U-R-E, P-O-P-U-R-E, right? P-U-R-E. But bureau is B-U-R-E and Australia, bureau. Now, P-L-A-T-E-A-U, plateau. So the environment, for example, environment, when you write it, but you don't pronounce it environment when you say environment. So you don't sit down and like the old days, like some teachers give you a list of words to memorize. E-N-V-I-R-O-N-E-M-E-N-T, environment. That is going to be useless for you. You will forget it easily. So that's a very stressful thing to do. So don't do that, but just type it and see, make use of the technology that you have. Yes, Susan, another question?
Yes, Naren. So another question with regards to reading. So the question was, how do you choose the correct material? There were a couple of people who said, I like to read, I start reading, I finish a chapter, and then I close the book and forget about it. Or I open a book, I start reading, it's too difficult, I don't understand. So what do I do? So how can they choose a correct text, Naren sir and Ms. Raji?
Chances are you are selecting something that is not very relevant to you. So nowadays, that's what I was about to tell you about this Oxford University Press and all those people. They have graded readings. So you go to a bookshop and look for those graded readings. Start from, simple things. If you're buying a book, it shouldn't be like going to a supermarket and just loading your trolley with things. So you can spend about half an hour, 45 minutes when you choose a book. So just go and look at those books slowly. Read a page or read the blurb of the page, the final page of the book, the cover of the book. So kind of understand, can I read this? Read a paragraph also, then choose the book. When you go to the library, also do the same thing. Choose the one that you can read. Don't take the book, buy the book, and then go home and think that whether I can read this or not. Right? Yeah. So that is the answer I can give you.
Another interesting, thank you, sir. Another interesting question is a lot of the participants want to improve speaking skills quickly. And there are a lot of English programs out there. So they want to know, how do they make the best choice to develop skills?
Okay, good question. I like that question. So when you are going to a class, or when you choose a teacher or an institute, when you want to learn that skill, ask yourself or ask other people how the teaching is done there. But if you are choosing a class where you only talk about grammar, teacher comes and talks and talks and talks and gives lectures about grammar, simple present tense is used for this use, and doesn't allow you to speak, that is not going to be a good class. Choose a class where you think the teacher gives you more opportunity to speak rather than the teacher developing herself. Yes, Raji.
So there was a related question to that. So I wanted you to think of that also when you answer. Someone has asked, how about teachers' qualification? How do they identify teachers with qualification, or is it important to go to a class where the teacher is qualified to teach? Can you also give your opinion on that?
Well, interesting question, but yeah, nowadays, in the old days, when you go to a doctor, you just say a Red Cross, then you walk into the doctor's place, right? But nowadays, even doctors we choose. So that has come to our field also. So, things like CELTA, qualified teachers, there are some things called TKT. And when people advertise more than that, more than the qualifications, I would say experience is the best thing. Word of mouth is the best thing. When you talk to your friends who have been to that institute or somewhere, you ask them, how did you enjoy that? A class that is enjoyable, where teachers let students stand up and talk to each other, go around the class, teachers monitor and give you feedback. So I had a friend, I had a teacher friend sometimes back, not a friend, a trainee. He said, sir, I teach a lot, I talk a lot. In the morning to evening, I'm teaching these students every day, but they don't seem to improve. I said, they won't improve because you are talking all the time. You stand in front of the children and you talk and talk and talk. You never allow them to talk to you. So teachers or institutes that promote giving opportunities for students to interact with each other, those are the classes that you're supposed to go to. And Headway, for example, we are trying to do that even online. When we have so many free courses, like Mr. Sanjay Mailwan mentioned, we have our own English language courses which are free of charge, organized by Headway, American Center Funded Programs. They are also, even online, we make sure that people talk. We have excellent teachers like Susan and Tara and all these people. They do that. They kind of, they are trained in that way. So to let people talk to each other. So that is one reason I don't very much like seminars like this. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it. But here, who is talking for 1.5 hours? It's Raji and I are talking and talking. An English class would not be like that. In an English classroom situation or online teaching situation, there will be a lot of students talking to each other. Thanks to all the technology that we have rooms, online rooms are there. People can talk to each other within the room. Teacher can go and monitor and so many things. I think we are close to the end of the program.
Yes, Naren sir. End of the program, but one question that keeps coming up, Naren sir, is about grammar, how to improve grammar. But before you jump into that answer, I think I'm going to let the others know that we do have another webinar that's coming up on how to overcome grammar errors and how to improve your grammar. So please do connect with us to find out more details about that webinar. Yes, Naren, so Ms. Raji, if you could give us a few hints probably on how to improve grammar without...
Naren.
Yes.
Would you like to start, Naren?
So somebody's saying use Grammarly. Yeah, that's a good idea. Grammarly, there are things like your apps that you can purchase to improve your grammar. And once again, those videos that we were talking about, and in that we call it Grammar Toolkit or Grammar Clinic rather. We are going to have one, but there we are going to focus on normal problems, Sri Lankan students' problems. Like I think Raji and I had a discussion on that. One small example would be many of us Sri Lankan speakers use ing form very frequently. What do you do in your free time? I'm watching TV. I am playing football. I'm playing cricket. That's what they. So in that workshop, we will be telling you and why that is happening. Okay, why Sri Lankan especially use ing form more? And there are some other common errors like I went to the party. Things like that. It's not 1.5 hours. We'll be focusing on very important basic grammar errors and ideas as to how to improve. That's a different story altogether because that's a very vast area, isn't it? Grammar itself. I can't just in one sentence, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
So today's focus was how to improve your general language fluency, speaking and listening by using videos and what other things you can do. Okay. I hope you enjoyed. In 1.5 hours, we cannot do a lot, but I hope you kind of triggered you. We have put you on the springboard and it is time for you to swim. So we have just shown you the path. Now you should, everything is on you. And I hope do that. Okay. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raji.
Thank you, Naren. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Naren sir. Thank you, Ms. Raji, for your time. It was a pleasure hosting the webinar for you. And thank you very much to all of the participants for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Raji. Thank you, Susan, Sanjeeva, and Sanjay, Mr. Sanjay Mailwan. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.